Sunrise spilled across the mansion as the billionaire stepped quietly toward his bedroom. Unaware, a stranger's breath echoed inside. He froze at the doorframe, sensing a disturbance, a faint rustle, a shadow moving where silence normally guarded his private world. His hand hovered above the knob, heart thudding as an unfamiliar tension crawled through the morning's otherwise perfect calm. The moment the door creaked open, his pulse spiked. Money lay scattered across the table, stacked in reckless, impossible towers. He blinked hard, breath unsteady, unable to fathom how fortunes he locked away securely were now exposed like careless paper. And there, seated among the bundles, a young girl in a crisp uniform counted bills with the precision of a seasoned accountant. Her calm focus contrasted violently with the storm rising in his chest, each flick of her pen slicing deeper into his confusion. Sunlight highlighted her determined expression as though she belonged there, yet nothing about this scene made rational sense. The billionaire stepped further in, but dread clung to his shoulders, whispering that this was no innocent mistake or misunderstanding. Nothing about her posture, her composure, or her deliberate counting hinted fear, only purpose, sharp and unwavering. He swallowed hard, gripping the door as the impossible truth surfaced. This girl wasn't lost. She was waiting for him. And he realized, too late, that whatever brought her here carried a secret far more dangerous than missing money ever could. Her eyes lifted slowly, meeting his with a steadiness that rattled him, as though she'd been expecting this exact moment. The pen in her hand paused mid-air, yet her grip remained firm, proving she wasn't startled, only calculating her next move. Stacks of money framed her like a fortress, each bundle placed with intention, forming patterns he couldn't yet decipher fully. He stepped closer, but every instinct warned him the slightest wrong move might unravel something far more dangerous within her. Her calmness infuriated him. Fear would have made sense, but confidence hinted at knowledge she wasn't supposed to possess at all. She finally spoke, her voice soft yet unsettlingly firm, carrying an authority no child her age should logically hold. "I hope you don't mind," she said, flipping a stack. "Your room lacked organization, so I improved your system myself." The billionaire's breath hitched. He had never shared his security codes, yet she handled the money like she owned every dollar. Something icy coiled in his spine as he realized nothing in the vault was missing, except the sense of safety he once trusted. Her uniform offered no clues, just a generic service outfit, impossible to connect with any staff he had ever hired before. He looked toward the hallway, but no one followed him. She had isolated this moment deliberately, sealing him into her plan. And as she resumed counting, he sensed her message clearly. She wasn't there to steal. She was there to reveal something terrifying. The billionaire tried to speak, but the words stumbled, failing to match the weight of the tension gripping the room. He studied her hands, steady, methodical, each movement too precise for someone improvising or acting on impulse alone. The morning sun carved a halo around her, but its warmth clashed sharply with the cold, meticulous aura she projected. She arranged another row of money, aligning each bill perfectly, like she was reconstructing a puzzle he didn't know existed. "This isn't random," he whispered, though fear twisted his voice, betraying the confidence he normally commanded with ease. She nodded subtly, confirming his suspicion without shifting her focus, as though she measured time by her own silent rhythm. He scanned the room rapidly, searching for signs of tampering, yet everything seemed untouched, except his certainty. "Why are you here?" he asked, his voice tightening, but she offered only a faint smile that deepened the mystery. Her silence felt heavier than any answer, stretching the seconds until they echoed like footsteps closing in from behind. She slid a single envelope across the table, its weight light, but its importance unmistakably immense and deliberate. The billionaire hesitated, but the envelope's presence demanded attention, pulsing like a warning beneath the morning light. When he finally reached for it, her gaze sharpened, signaling that opening it would change far more than he expected. His fingers trembled as he opened the envelope, unwilling yet unable to resist the truth sealed inside its crisp edges. A single sheet slid out, handwritten, unfamiliar, but the first line struck him like a blow he couldn't defend himself against. "You've been watched." The letters were neat, deliberate, crafted with a patience that made his skin prickle in dread. The girl observed his reaction quietly, her expression unreadable, almost as if she had rehearsed this moment perfectly. He flipped the page, finding numbers, account numbers, his private accounts locked behind biometric firewalls no outsider knew. Each sequence was correct, and the realization hollowed him. Someone had bypassed safeguards he trusted more than people. "How did you get this?" he whispered, but his voice broke, betraying the magnitude of his spiraling disbelief. She didn't answer. Instead, she pointed toward the stacks of money, forming a pattern he'd failed to recognize earlier. They weren't random piles. They mapped the flow of funds he'd hidden for years, traced with terrifying accuracy and detail. He stepped back, breath tightening, as the chilling truth surged forward. The girl wasn't exposing his secrets. She was decoding them. Her calmness now felt sinister, like she was only unveiling the first layer of a plan far bigger than this room's boundaries. And when she finally spoke, it wasn't reassurance. It was a warning wrapped in a whisper. "This is only the beginning." The billionaire felt the walls closing in, his mansion suddenly too small, too vulnerable to contain whatever she had unleashed. He glanced at the window for escape, but her presence anchored him, trapping him in a web she wove with chilling precision. "Who sent you?" he demanded, forcing strength into his words. But she shook her head slowly as if pitying his desperation. "I came alone," she replied, though her tone hinted layers of truth that refused to reveal themselves fully just yet. Then she pushed another envelope toward him, this one thicker, heavier, sealed with an emblem he had hoped to never see again. Ice flooded his veins. He recognized the symbol instantly, a mark from the past he had buried beneath wealth and power. Her eyes tracked his reaction closely, confirming she knew the impact this would have. She wasn't guessing. She understood. He tore the seal open, revealing photographs, timelines, records of decisions he made long before she ever existed at all. Each image exposed a piece of history he had erased, yet here they were, resurrected and arranged with surgical precision. The girl leaned forward, her voice steady as stone. "You thought your sins faded, but someone has kept every receipt." He staggered, realizing she wasn't here to bargain. She was here to unravel the version of himself he showed the world. And as the room darkened around him, he understood the true horror. She knew everything, and she was far from done. The air thickened as the billionaire backed away, but there was no corner in the room untouched by her silent revelations. He felt exposed in his own sanctuary, every wall echoing with truths he'd buried under decades of power, secrecy, and wealth. The girl didn't move toward him. She didn't need to. Her presence alone pressed against him like a spotlight on raw guilt. She opened a small notebook, its pages filled with dates, transfers, and signatures he thought he'd erased forever. Each line was a mirror reflecting pieces of him he refused to acknowledge, fragments sharpened into weapons by unknown hands. He clenched his fists, realizing the danger wasn't just the information. It was who delivered it. Calm, confident, unshakable. "You've built your empire on foundations meant to stay hidden," she said, her voice unsettlingly composed and deliberate. "But someone has traced every step back to you, and they want you to understand what happens next." Her words struck deeper than threats. This was a reckoning, delivered with the precision of someone carrying absolute proof. The billionaire tried to suppress the tremor in his voice, but fear cracked through anyway as he whispered, "Why now?" She closed the notebook softly, as if sealing his past inside it once more. But this time under her control, not his. And with a cold stillness, she replied, "Because your past finally caught up, and it no longer wants to stay silent." He felt the floor tilt beneath him, reality shifting, breaking the illusion of control he had held for most of his life. Every second with her felt orchestrated, as though she were following instructions written long before she'd arrived. She reached under the table and placed a small recording device beside the money, its red light blinking steadily. The implications hit him. Every word he said now held the potential to destroy him far beyond financial ruin. "Someone trusted me with this," she said, tapping the device, "because they knew you wouldn't tell the truth willingly." His chest tightened. Names flashed through his mind, allies turned enemies, secrets traded in shadows of power. But none fit the scale of what she had uncovered. This went beyond betrayal. This was a dismantling of his entire identity. "You have one chance," she continued, folding her hands calmly, "to explain before everything leaves this room." Her restraint terrified him more than aggression would have. She wasn't impulsive. She was trained to expose him completely. He stepped forward, anger flaring, but her gaze remained unshaken, making his rage feel small, powerless, irrelevant. "Speak carefully," she warned, "because every lie you say becomes another truth I reveal to the world." And for the first time in years, the billionaire felt something chillingly unfamiliar. He felt cornered. His voice trembled as he tried to form excuses, but the girl's silence dismantled each weak justification before it began. The mansion around them, symbols of luxury and dominance, suddenly felt like a prison built to hide his darkest mistakes. She slid one final document toward him, stamped with a seal he prayed had disappeared from the world forever. He refused to touch it, but the paper radiated truth so damning, his refusal only exposed his fear more clearly. "That's the file," she said quietly. "The one they promised would never resurface. But promises break." He shook his head, voice cracking as old memories clawed their way back, memories he'd locked away at any cost. The girl turned the page, revealing signatures, his, unmistakably his, binding decisions he once believed were untraceable. Her calmness now felt merciless, a reminder that this wasn't a threat. It was a verdict delivered with unstoppable certainty. "You built empires," she whispered, "but you forgot the people crushed beneath them. Remember everything." The weight of her words collapsed his composure. Sweat formed along his brow as panic began replacing arrogance. She closed the folder and leaned back, knowing she had dismantled every wall he hid behind for decades. And in the growing silence, he realized the true danger wasn't the documents, it was the person holding them. He staggered backward, but the girl didn't chase. She didn't need to. Every exit now belonged to the truth she carried. "Tell me who sent you," he demanded desperately. But she answered with a subtle shake of her head, almost sympathetic. "The real question," she said softly, "is why they trusted me instead of confronting you themselves." Her words pierced deeper than accusations, suggesting layers of betrayal woven far beyond what he could comprehend. He glanced at the piles of money, his wealth, his shield, and realized none of it had power in the face of what she held. She stood slowly, her presence commanding the room with a quiet authority he couldn't match, even with all his influence. "They didn't want revenge," she continued, picking up the last envelope. "They wanted consequences." He felt a sinking dread as she approached, her footsteps measured, controlled, echoing the inevitability of judgment. "This," she said, handing him the final sealed letter, "is the part you've feared most, the one you can't run from." His hand shook violently as he accepted it, realizing the envelope felt heavier than all the money on the table combined. The girl watched him open it, her gaze steady, prepared for the moment his world collapsed entirely. And as his eyes scanned the first line, all color drained from his face. This wasn't evidence. It was a summons. Silence swallowed the room as the billionaire clutched the letter, his breath faltering under the weight of its contents. The girl stepped back, giving him space, though her presence still pressed against him like an unyielding truth. He read the final paragraph twice, but disbelief shattered into panic, the kind that claws for escape where none exists. "This is impossible," he whispered. But she only tilted her head, signaling that denial could no longer protect him. The letter named dates, witnesses, transactions, every thread woven into a net designed to capture him completely. "You've hidden behind power for years," she said, her voice calm yet unforgiving. "But power can't outrun justice forever." His legs weakened, forcing him into the chair beside the towering stacks of cash that now felt worthless and mocking. The girl reached for the recording device, switching it off with a quiet click that echoed like a final sentence. "My work here is done," she said, gathering her notes. "But what comes next isn't in my hands anymore." She walked toward the door with graceful certainty, leaving him frozen in the ruins of his once untouchable life. Before exiting, she paused, offering one last verdict. "The truth always finds its way home, even when you don't want it." And as the door closed behind her, the billionaire sat alone, surrounded by money, stripped of power, and drowning in truth.